Hey, my name's Casey Harris. Today's lesson is going to be a good intermediate guitar lesson. This is going to be really useful for anyone who's looking to get into playing more jazz guitar, but maybe you don't feel like you quite have your sea legs yet with that sort of thing. Today's lesson is going to be focused on guide tone chords or shell chords, same thing. So first of all, what are guide tone chords? What are shell chords? A lot of jazz harmony is really based around 7 chords. So you got many different kinds of 7 chords in music: major 7s, minor 7s, dominant 7s, half diminished, full diminished, and some others. Today, for our purposes of this lesson, we're going to look at major 7s, minor 7s, and dominant 7 chords in shell form voicing or guide tone chord voicing. What that means is all of those types of 7 chords are built up of 4 notes. We've got a root, some kind of third, some kind of fifth, some kind of 7th. Guide tone chords, we take out the fifth. So we're only playing roots, thirds, and 7s. This is really, really useful for a couple different reasons. One is just space. So if we're playing in a larger ensemble, a lot of our fuller guitar chord shapes that we know for our 7 chords are going to be they're gonna take up too much real estate. They can sound really, really nice on their own. Like if I'm just kind of jamming along. Sounds totally fine. But in the context of playing with a larger ensemble, that might just take up too much room. Right, so that's one reason for using shell chords. I find that to be a really useful way to utilize them. Is they just take up less room because there's less notes in there. But also, they're really useful for learning our inversions on the neck and being able to add on top of those chords. So when we start to talk about more complicated chords, when we're talking about 9 chords, 11 chords, 13 chords, it's taking these shells of chords and being able to add more to them. So they're just a great foundational tool in that way to be able to have a starting point and then build off of those shapes that you know. So we're going to look at a few different inversions around our neck. We'll look at chords with the root on our E string, with the root on our A string, and the root on our D string. And we'll do a couple different variations of both of those. So first of all, if we're looking at a guide tone chord or a shell chord with the root on our E string, for example, I'll start at the note A here. This would be an A major 7 chord. I've got a root, I've got a major third, and I've got a major 7. This is a good starting point. I find that these chords with the root on our low E string, when everything's closely lumped together, they can be a little muddy. Depending on the way your bass player is playing, you can definitely make these work, but just know they have a very, very muddy kind of full sound to them, even if we're taking out the fifth, right? In this case, there's no fifth, it's just a root, a third, and a major 7, a root, a major third, and a major 7. If I want to turn this into a dominant 7 chord, all I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this. I'm going to lower the 7 and turn it into a minor 7. So now this is a dominant 7 chord, root, major third, minor 7. If I want to turn this into a minor 7 chord, I just lower the third, right? So I've got major, dominant, minor. Another way to play with this root on the low E string, but take some of the muddiness out of it and allow it to shine a little bit more. This is a great inversion for comping. Is I'm going to take the third and I'm going to put the third on top. So I'm going to actually skip my A string. So instead of playing my major, in this case A major 7 chord like this, I'm going to take this third that I've got here, this C sharp, and I'm going to put this C sharp up on top. So now I have this chord. That kind of opens it up a little bit and gives you a little more wiggle room with the sound you're dealing with. Now if I want to turn this into a dominant 7 chord, same thing. I'm going to take this this major 7, excuse me, and flatten it to a minor 7. So now I have this chord. And just like with the other inversion, if I want to turn this into a minor 7 chord, I take the 3rd, which is now on top, right, the 6th fret of our G string. If I lower that by a half step, now I've got a minor 7 chord. So those first inversions we had, major, dominant, minor, 5th fret, 4th fret, 6th fret, major 7, 5th fret, 4th fret, 5th fret, that's dominant, 5th fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret, that's minor 7. If I want to put the 3rd on top, now I've got 5th fret of my E string, I'm skipping my A string, I've got the 6th fret of my D string and the 6th fret of my G string. If I want to turn this into a dominant 7 chord, I'm going to lower this 6th fret of my D string to the 5th fret of my D string. And if I want to turn this into a minor 7 chord, I'm going to lower that pinky again. Okay, I'm going to lower in this case, the 3rd. So those are some inversions with my root on my E string. Really, really useful. I think they're just really fun sounding chords. They're fun to comp. They're also fun to, again, build off of and add other tensions in. Now let's look at the chords with the root on our A string. So for example, the first ones are going to look the same. Major, dominant, minor, same shape. Everything's just shifted up a string. So in this case, I'm playing everything off of D, my root D, the 5th fret of my A string. So I've got 5 on my A, 4 on my D, and 6 on my G. That's major 7. Then I'm going to lower this note, turn that into a dominant. So now it's 5 on my A, 4 on my D, 5 on my G. And if I want to turn that into a minor 7, I'm just going to lower the 3rd. So now I have 5, 3, 5. Again, we're skipping our low E. This is on the A, D, and G string. So that's a really useful inversion there too. If I want to do the same thing that I did before, all I've got to do, that's my major 7 inversion, 5th of my A string, skipping the D string, 6th fret of my G, 7th fret of my B. If I want to turn this into a dominant, I'm going to lower this note, and now it's 5, skip the D string, 5, 7. And if I want to turn this into a minor chord, I'm going to do the same thing, but now I'm lowering my 3rd, right? Because in this case, we've got root 7 3rd. The 3rd is going to go down, and now we have this. Awesome. So those are chords with the root on our E string in a couple different ways, chords with the root on our A string in a couple different ways. Lastly, let's look at some with the root on our D string. So for this one, that's going to be our major 7, root, 3rd, 7. In this case, I'm playing a G major 7 because I've got the G, which is the 5th fret of the D string. So 5 on my D, 4 on my G, and 7 on my B. To turn this into a major 7, to turn this into a dominant 7, I'm going to lower the 7th, which is up top, my pinky. So this is going to go down a half step to the 6th fret. So now I've got 5, 4, 6. And if I lastly want to turn this into a minor 7 chord, I just lower my 1st finger. So now I've got 5th fret on my D, 3rd fret on my G, and 6th fret on my B. The last inversion that we're going to look at, same thing, root on our D string, but now we're going to put the 3rd on top. So now it's going to be root 7 3rd. So in this case, the major 7 chord is going to be, the G major 7 chord is going to be root on G, the 5th fret of my D string. Then I've got the 7th fret of my B and my E string. That's my root, then my 7, and then my major 3rd. So root, major third, major 7. If I want to turn this into a dominant chord, I'm just going to lower, in this case, my 3rd finger to the 6th fret. So now I have 5th fret on my D string, I've got 6th fret on my B string, and 7th fret on my high E string. And if I want to turn this finally into a minor 7 chord, just lower my pinky. And there we go. We've got now root, flat 7, minor 7, and minor 3rd. So those are just a few different ways to play guide tone chords or shell chords. They're really, really useful for those reasons that I mentioned before. They're also just fun to play. So I would say take some songs that you know, some standards, maybe take them out of the real book, and just try and comp them with these guide tone chords or these shell chords. And it'll go a really long way. This is really, really useful for when you're playing with a bass player especially. So if you've got a rhythm section that needs some more support with it, they go a really, really long way. And again, just use your ear. There's going to be times where playing those fuller chords, including the fifths, are going to be applicable and it's going to sound great. And there's going to be other times where we just need to take up less space. We need to take up less sonic real estate. And in those cases, we can play these shell chords and they're going to be exactly what we need them to be. But this is a great intro into playing some more comping jazz style guitar. And I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next lesson. Thanks.